What's up everybody and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at the 2025 Chevrolet Equinox alongside the 2025 Honda CR-V. Both of these are about $40,000. They are non-hybrid, non-electric versions. This one is an RS all-wheel drive. This is an EXL all-wheel drive. It is worth mentioning you can get a fully electric Equinox and a hybrid CR-V, which really doesn't cost all too much more than this Equinox. But nonetheless, let's get right into the non-electric assisted versions of these $40,000 crossovers and see how they stack up. Moving on to the power plant, in the 2025 Chevrolet Equinox, you're going to find a 1.5 liter inline 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. This makes 175 horsepower with 203 pound-feet of torque. With all-wheel drive, it is paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission, has a 15.6 gallon fuel tank, and you're looking at 24 miles per gallon in the city with 29 out on the highway. Curb weight is also around 3,600 pounds. Now over on the Honda CR-V non-hybrid, you're going to get a 1.5 liter inline 4-cylinder turbocharged engine with 190 horsepower and 179 pound-feet of torque. Has a CVT transmission with the all-wheel drive. Curb weight is 3,600 pounds. This runs on a 14 gallon fuel tank and you're looking at 26 miles per gallon in the city with 31 out on the highway. Now moving on to the exterior styling, it is worth noting the RS is a pretty sporty trim level for the Equinox. You can opt for a sport touring hybrid version of the CR-V, which will look a bit more sporty than this EXL. However, for the non-hybrids, this is about as sporty as you're gonna get. So when you do look at styling with the CR-V, it has a nice look overall with a large grille. You can also see just the overall shape of it. Of course, this has very Honda characteristics for the style. Over on the Equinox, it's pretty bold and aggressive. Even if you did opt for a more basic one, it's got a pretty nice design to it. You have some sharp lines throughout the side profile, pretty good proportions overall as you'd expect. I do like the two-tone roof option on the Honda. It is a bit more simple looking. Even the sport version is still pretty simple. So I would say that the Equinox definitely has a bit more aggression to the style, a little bit more out there and bold. The Honda is a little bit more conservative, toned down to just be on the more generic side, even with the sport one being a little bit more sporty than this specific one. But for non-hybrid to non-hybrid, that is a pretty good look at how they differ. Very similar in size, of course, just very different in style overall. So now inside the Honda CR-V, this is about a good general look at what you're going to expect. You have a pretty cool design for this mesh piece around all the air vents. You have the tablet style for the infotainment, very similar to all of Honda's multimedia screens, pretty easy to use, pretty snappy touchscreen as well. You do have some physical controls as well, then a few different shortcuts. Looking at the backup camera, you got a nice rear view. You can also adjust that just a little bit. For the gauge cluster, you have a digital screen on the left side. You can configure it just a little bit by tapping the home icon, and then you can scroll through and see just a few things. So nothing too crazy fancy in here, but nonetheless, pretty decent display overall. We have physical climate controls in the center with heated seats. We have storage, wireless phone charging, your shifter along with different drive modes. It'll pop up with a small depiction. You can also see downhill assist, cup holders in the center. So not too bad, very normal I would say. Nice looking light leather interior, cool looking on the door panel with some trim. So really can't complain too much with the way this looks. A view out and all the mirrors. Not a bad interior, very normal I would say would be the definition of the Honda. Just very user-friendly, simple and nice. Now moving on to the Chevy Equinox. This one does get these sporty touches with the red. You can also see that over on the air vents. You have this cool vinyl material across the dash. Large screen in the center, basically what you've seen on other Chevrolet and GM products. So pretty nice design overall. Definitely a little bit larger of a screen, a little bit more information in here as well. You have all the information here. If we go ahead and put this into reverse, you got a top-down view as well as the backup camera, and then you can adjust a few different things. So a little bit better tech I would say in this. And then the center gauge cluster, once again, full LCD, and you can maneuver all sorts of different information throughout the screen. You have the red stitching on it as well. Physical climate controls, heated and ventilated seating. There's extra storage here, really nice spot for your cell phone, cup holders, as well as extra storage. There's drive modes as well. You can configure a little bit and just see a little bit of a depiction. This one has the really cool vinyl material across the seating surfaces with contrast stitching. So this is definitely a much more sporty looking vehicle. This is a full panoramic sunroof as well, digital rear view mirror, So there are some features of the Chevy Equinox that the Honda just doesn't have. So definitely I would say this interior is a bit cooler. So hopping into the backseat with the Honda CR-V, this seat all the way reclined is quite nice at 5'11". With the driver's seat at my height, still have pretty good legroom and knee room. We have air vents, there's also USB ports down below. And in the center, we can pop this down and you're gonna get an armrest with 2 cup holders. There's dome lights up above on the ceiling, grab handles. So pretty nicely equipped back seat. Honestly, you have good amenities, good room, great visibility with all the lighting and all the glass, so really can't complain. Now hopping into the back seat with the Chevy Equinox. So this seat seems to be a bit more padded. I can squish down into it. However, it does seem a little shorter, not really supporting my legs as much. I do have a little bit better legroom. There are heated seats and air vents back here. Nice armrest. Pretty good amount of glass, however, a lot less glass right here, so not quite as open, but we do have that panoramic sunroof. Now these seats also don't recline, so you're kind of stuck here. It's a fine angle, but definitely not like you got in the Honda. Moving to the center, you can pop this down. Nice armrest as well as cup holders. So I'd say it is a close toss-up between the two in the back seats. I like the heated seat option here. Of course, the materials look cooler throughout this interior, and I like the roof, but you do have better recline, but better legroom. So I'd say about 50-50 overall. I think though, my vote would go towards the Honda being a bit more comfortable since you can recline. Moving on to the cargo space for the Chevy Equinox, you can see with the seat in the upright position how much storage space you're gonna get. And then all the seats will fold down nice and flat like you see on the left side for an ample amount of room. Nice flat load floor, you can pop this open and we have a lot of hidden storage space in here, and there is a spare tire underneath this. So I like how they've put a cover in here to put extra items, and then you can remove it all when you need access to that spare tire. Of course, we're gonna get a power liftgate on both of these vehicles. You can tap that button and it's gonna automatically start to close. Here on the Honda CR-V, really similar in size overall. You can see how far that recline is, kind of matches that angle right here. But as you can tell, they're gonna fold nice and flat once folded, and you have pretty much the same amount of space. Now here, you open this up, we also have a spare tire. Looks like a more full-size tire on this one. No extra cubby or anything to cover it, so it'll be a little bit more difficult to use this as storage. But nonetheless, I would say both are pretty comparable. And then of course, power liftgates are gonna be on both of these vehicles. So to start the test drive, we're gonna take the Honda CR-V out and about. Now to address the elephant in the car, why am I not filming the hybrid version, which would probably be more competitive with the turbocharged Equinox? Currently, those are all on a stop sale. I can't film one even if I wanted to. They're not allowed to be driven or sold at the moment due to some recall Honda has. So with that said, I have 2 reviews of the hybrids of these CR-Vs, and they're quite nice. They do have good power with the electronic assistance. And yeah, for about the same price as that Equinox, that one is $40,300. For about the same, give or take a little bit, you can get a nice sport hybrid, which of course looks a bit cooler and has more power. With that said though, this is 38 grand. This is only $2,000 cheaper than that one. This is definitely way more conservative. I think if you're looking at the RS Equinox, you're definitely gonna be looking at a sport hybrid CR-V, which looks a lot cooler and is a much step up than this one. However, with that said, you're still getting fundamentally a lot of the similarities. So with this, pretty comfortable seat overall. I would say the cushioning is a little stiff. You have a really good view around, super easy to see throughout this vehicle. And it's overall a pretty comfortable car. It's easy, it's well laid out. Storage is decent. I mean, you do have a big cubby up here with the wireless charger pad and the storage right there. Now this one, getting up to some speed, surprisingly, it's actually not bad. Like, it decently gets up to speed without really stressing it too much. We didn't even go above 4,000 RPM. Ride quality seems pretty good. Steering is actually pretty responsive. Feels like a confident crossover. I really haven't had complaints with these CR-Vs that I have been able to drive over the last couple months. They seem like a pretty well-balanced crossover without breaking the bank. So I'm enjoying this. It's also really quiet. We're going over 40 on a pretty bad road, and you really don't hear anything. So this is definitely a smooth drive, comfortable car. Armrests are pretty good, nice and padded. Build quality seems pretty good as well. There are some plastics. However, we have some soft touch materials all around it, so it's not bad. I would just say it is more on the basic side. Even if you were to get the Sport Touring, you know, a more nicer trim level, they really don't have much like crazy style. They all look kind of like this. You just might get some contrast stitching, and that is about it. So it is certainly a conservative crossover meant to blend in, I would say, which isn't a bad thing. You know, some people just want nice normal transportation without breaking the bank and without having to be in anything too crazy. Moving on now to driving in the Chevrolet Equinox. So one of the first things I do notice, these seats are nice and padded. Definitely not as stiff feeling. You sink into them a little bit more. Getting up and moving with the turbo, to be quite honest, it doesn't really feel all too much quicker. These aren't fast cars, obviously, so don't really notice that big of a power difference, quite honestly. I like how both of them do have the all-wheel drive. I think that helps make the power feel a little bit smoother. I've driven one of these in front-wheel drive, and I just didn't like it whatsoever. Also, the 8-speed automatic in this versus the CVT in the Honda, they kind of feel the same. I feel like Honda did a good job with their CVT to where it actually drives nice. It doesn't seem like a whiny transmission like some of the really bad CVTs. Turning radius is nice in this car as well. And then I feel like the ride quality, the suspension might be a little bit softer in this. So when we hit bumps or anything, it seems to tackle them just a little bit better, which also does translate to this one feeling a little bit more floaty. Like when you're turning, even just on this road, you really feel a lot of the swaying of the car. So the Honda does drive a little bit more stable and planted around the turns, but this drives a little bit more plush and comfortable over the bumps. Road quality, wind noise, things like that, I'd say about the same. They both feel about the same. We're going 40 again on this pretty bad road, and it's nice and quiet. So either one, I think, is a pretty good overall. The interior layout in this definitely looks cooler. It looks more aggressive in your face. The storage solutions are better in this as well. I love this slot right here. You can fit 2 cell phones, and that's the wireless phone charging pad as well. And then the rest of the storage in the center is a little bit easier. Armrests are pretty good. However, I don't know why this is wobbly. It's got just like plastic hinge, but it is a little loose feeling, so that's a little cheap. However, the rest of this interior does feel really nice. You don't have as many soft touch materials technically. There are some hard plastics. However, you have the really cool vinyl all around with this nice texture that does make this feel a bit more aggressive, more cool, I would say. So this seems to be a bit more fun of a vehicle. Even if you go for a loaded sport version hybrid of the Honda CR-V, it is still very conservative, very relaxed feeling, just very normal. This seems above and beyond in the style department. That's a little annoying. But in the style department, this definitely seems above and beyond. I wouldn't say the drive is that different though. Even when I've driven the hybrids, it has a really good low-end torque from the EV system. This, you kind of got to let the turbo do its thing to get the power. About 3,000 is when you start feeling it. A lot of turbo cars, you'll get better power delivery down low. This one does seem like there's a little bit of lag with it. Maybe because it's a very small engine, it needs a lot more RPM to send the power through the turbo to actually get it working. But yeah, nonetheless, they're very similar in driving dynamics. The shifter is up here on this car, so it's a little bit interesting to get used to. However, you have the more traditional one over on the Honda. Camera systems definitely work well in here. So I feel like the Equinox has a lot more features and options for similar money. And again, I know you're going to be telling me I need to compare it with a sport touring hybrid. However, these are only $2,000 apart. So these are very similar money. The hybrids I filmed were like $44,000. So a $4,000 difference versus a $2,000 difference. So there is a lot of overlap. There really isn't a full direct competitor when you look at these, price for price and option for option. So they're not going to be equally equipped for the same money. So ending thoughts after driving in the new 2025 Equinox alongside the 2025 Honda CR-V and reminiscing about driving in the hybrid sport tourings as well. It's really splitting hairs. I feel like this segment, the compact crossovers, is so competitive. Every single automaker makes 1, 2, or 3 of these types of vehicles. So it is a really tough one when you're truly comparing cars that are at this price point in this category. I would say by far, even when you look at a loaded CR-V, this new Equinox is cool looking. It looks awesome inside and out. It is bold, it is stylish. It certainly has some road presence where you look at this and say, wow, that is a cool looking compact crossover. The Honda CR-V, whether you go with a more normal one or the nicer looking sport one, is very conservative, very toned down, looks more like just your typical crossover. Kind of, if you imagine just a basic crossover, it kind of looks like this. So inside now, this is way more plain. Not to say it's a bad thing, it's a nice looking car, it's fine, but the Equinox looks super cool. Driving experiences, I really don't mind the non-hybrid version of the Honda. It seems to be very peppy. The CVT is not bad at all. When you look at the Equinox, the turbo power doesn't really show through all that much. It doesn't seem like it's astronomically faster. I kind of like, I would say, the hybrid out of anything. If you go for the hybrid CRV, that down low EV power is instant and it adds a nice little punch. So I feel like this drives a little bit more stable, but this drives a little bit more soft and comfortable. I'd say it's a 50-50, quite honestly. Pick the one that you like sitting in the best and looking at the best, I would say. Price points along the entire spectrum, very competitive from 30 to 45 grand. You can get either of these cars nicely equipped. But comment below, what are your guys' thoughts? I'd say it really just comes down to which one you like better to look at inside and out, because they drive very, very similar. So, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, stay tuned for plenty more content, and we'll see you all in the next video.